Ah, yes. Isn't that music? It's ominous. That's what this is. Ominous. The world order is upside down. Ladies and gentlemen, I just got back from a trip to the UK over the weekend, and I got to tell you, meeting the folks in London and talking about the so called New World Order. Yeah, we talked about trade, we talked about business, but also defense. And the worry suddenly became is what are we going to do without the United States? And I said, wait, did the United States say they were abandoning you? And they said, no, but we now have to be on, we have to take care of ourselves because we can't trust Donald Trump. Now, take it for what that's worth. That's the wake up call that Donald Trump has been trying to share with everybody. It's not about abandonment by the United States. What it really becomes is it's time for you to pick up your britches and start to put on your big boy pants, big girl pants, whatever you want to call it, and join in what needs to be done. That's it. Simple. And the message has gone through. Welcome back, everybody. I'm David Solomon. Welcome to the Rat Network, a podcast where we dedicate our time here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern to talk about politics, culture, society, craziness in the world, and so much more. Stuart's away today. He's out, and he'll be back again on Friday. But we do this together for the last 6 years, where we really share what like people don't like to talk about in public circles, but instead what they talk about in hushed tones. We bring it out to the open and hope you can share it with your friends and your maybe not so much friends about what's going on and a different perspective on the real world. So sit back and relax, ladies and gentlemen. So here's the thing. When you get a statement like this that Marco Rubio said at the Munich conference last week, it was a security conference. It's an annual conference. Donald Trump did not go to this one, but others did, and I'll talk about them in just a second. But Marco Rubio led the charge, unlike not so much JD Vance, but this was a Marco Rubio showcase. And his statement was very clear. And let me read it to you that the old world is gone. Frankly, the world I grew up in, and we live in a new era in geopolitics, and it's going to require all of us to re examine what that looks like and what our role is going to be. Since World War II, the United States has led the charge. The old world, if you have the history that Stuart likes to throw at me, I'm the history major or whatever. But history, folks, before World War II had the United Kingdom, or England, if you will, and France and Germany as world superpowers. And along comes the United States and Russia and emerge after World War II as the two great superpowers. Europe is destroyed, Japan decimated, entire economies having to be rebuilt, companies, manufacturers, infrastructure, everything built from the ground up. And yes, the United States, England, and France shared the West German zone in Berlin and what have you. And yes, we could go back and say that they shared it, but the reality was this was an American led mission. Fast forward to Korea, 1950, same thing. A 3 year war with the Koreans, and who's leading the charge? Yeah, it's a United Nations uh, group, but the reality is it was led by the United States. The US has been the world cop since World War II. It was the beacon that had to fight the Russians, the Soviets, if you will, for decades as the communists tried to spread their message around the world through places like North Korea, through places like Cuba. They tried to get into Africa, Middle East, South America, and the United States was the only one who pushed back as other countries kind of sat back and said, wow, someone else is going to do the dirty work. Well, lo and behold, right now the world order has gotten a lot more complex. Wars are not just fought on battlefields. Wars are fought also in cybersecurity, in the cyber world. People are attacking you in a variety of different ways with drones, terrorism. War is not what it used to be. The cost of it also is exorbitant. And the United States, through NATO and through other alliances, promised that they would help to continue to lead the charge, but they didn't say that everybody else had to abandon their responsibility. Mr. Trump campaigned in 2024 to force NATO members to pay up their fair share. Oh, what a concept. You want to play? You got to pay. This isn't more than that. The United States is not a charity. It's running a ridiculous debt and continues to grow its debt, invests in its defense structure, its R&D, and so on and so forth. And then you have other powers around the world saying, well, that's not just good enough, and criticize the United States, demanding more, expecting more, and offering less. As a Canadian, I can attest to that. I've seen the absolute falling apart, let's call it, of the Canadian Army, of our infrastructure, of our military. Come on. Yeah, we could say that the Cold War ended in 1989, and we could say that with the fall of the Berlin Wall, life changed, but it changed. It didn't go away. Menaces are still around in this world, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going away. The Iranian menace, North Korea, China, Russia, it's not going away. And the United States cannot continue to be everybody's, you know, babysitter. So lo and behold, when Marco Rubio and the Donald Trumps and the JD Vances of this world say, hey, it's time for you to pick up your, do something about it, people got upset. And I'm actually surprised by this statement. The European Union has now stood up and said, well, if we can't help get Donald Trump to help us, then perhaps we need to do something on our own. And so apparently Europe has received the message that it now has to gear up on its own. But the European Union is a bunch of countries. It's not it's a unified body in a way, but not in a way that you think it is. The European Union still, every country has its own defense budget, has its own military, has its own laws, and the union works together collectively on economic matters and other matters, but they're not necessarily telling each other, hey, we're going to, pay up. Well, now it's starting to happen. Germany and France got into a little tizzy because of that. Because Germany actually knows what it means to lose a war. Germany also knows what it means when there's trouble at the horizon. And the apparent French continue to be the French. Wah, 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 I'll do what I want until the shit hits the fan and then cry for everybody to help them. Remember World War II? Vichy France? Look it up. The United States is stepping away even from its allies with Canada. And Canada finally yesterday, good old Mark Carney, stood up and said, okay, people, we're done. We're done. And he announced yesterday to reduce Canada's military reliance on foreign partners, primarily the United States. And his plan is apparently to fund $6.6 billion with a strategy to aim to create 125,000 jobs and, of course, will increase exports. He wants to do more buy in Canada. We've heard this. In England, it's buy in UK. Europe, it's buy in Europe. They're trying to push more and more of this concept that Donald Trump was pushing. And I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm just saying when the time is right, people, you got to acknowledge that the guy rattles you. May not be the funnest way, but he rattles you for a reason. And all of a sudden, people wake up and go, we got to do something different. And look what he's done. Now, in almost all of these cases, it's almost a joke. Because to sit here today, especially in Canada, and to say, absolutely, we're going to create 125,000 jobs, we're investing $6.6 billion, and we're going to be an extraordinary defense. We're going to be not reliant. So we're going to reduce our reliance on our foreign partners. Well, they've already cut off Israel, which was a massive error, but a Carney political move. So the idea that you want to go ahead and cut out partners in a world where, let's get real, you got to work together, not against each other. Now that contradicts what I just said before, right? You're saying, but David, you just said we have to be less reliant on America. Less reliant doesn't mean not reliant. Doesn't mean you abandon your alliances. It doesn't mean you go away from all of what's really going on in the world. Now, you can love and hate all of these politicians, and it's all about votes and stuff. But the reality is that some are really trying to fix, and a lot of them are just trying to get reelected. Mr. Carney is balancing the idea of, maybe I can call an election on this. This could be really good for me. But it's really, this kind of program is not something that's going to be fixed for 2026 and 2027. In fact, it could be as late as 2029, 2030 before companies see these kinds of benefits. Canada is not a world superpower in defense and has to build it. That takes time, takes investment. That's not a here from here to today to tomorrow. And sure, there might be funding and sure, there might be opportunity. But again, Canada still won't be ready to defend herself just in case in a year or two. Still will need to rely on the United States. And that's something that the Americans know. The Europeans, the Canadians, and other people who've criticized the hell out of Donald Trump, they realize that while they're waiting for the dawn to leave in 2029, the United States still has to help them. So if God forbid there is an attack, what's going to happen? And to sit here and say today, no, it won't happen. It's been happening. Yes, it's been happening for years. Russia has been testing out cyber attacks on Canada. It doesn't get the press, it doesn't get the media. And it's known. If the news media would do their job, this isn't a conspiracy. This is fact. Iran has been attacking in cyber attacks on Israel, for example. Again, a test on how they're going to do things should they go to war against the United States. This is real. Yesterday, Iran tested in the Straits of Hormuz a live fire military move. If you think that, oh, well, it's because Trump is instigating, again, let's get real here. Iran wants to destroy the United States, Israel, and the democracies around the world. This is what they've stood for. They've announced it. They've gone public with this. Taiwan is a threat from China. South Korea has a threat from North Korea. Should we just abandon our partners? No, they're actually working to secure themselves. And then the United States can support them in a proper way. But what if the attack happened in Canada? What if the attack would happen in Finland? What would happen if the attack happened in somewhere else in Europe? You think that Russia would just stop at Ukraine? They're talking about Poland as well. They're talking about Finland as well. Putin has set his eyes on expansion. So should the United States continue to be everybody's babysitter and continue to fund and do what they needs to be done? Or is it time for governments to pick up the slack? What do you think it is? What do you think the United States should do? Continue to fund it with a $30 trillion debt? No. But here's the crazy thing. The opportunity is there to work with the United States. The opportunity is there to create a better and forge a better alliance with the United States. But a lot of politicians are just standing pat and saying, nope, we are not going to budge because politically that would make me look weak. Well, Canada has weakened. We're not so strong because we're not growing with the United States. The opposite. And our prime minister says, well, who cares? Remember? Europe is looking at other markets. Absolutely. They made a deal with India. They called it the mother of all deals. It was great. Very Trumpish in the way they announced it. But yes, there are new alliances and new opportunities being forged, which is great for economies and great for people to realize that you don't have to rely entirely on the United States. But the reliance is still there. There's still no one out there who is going to come and protect any country. Ukraine keeps coming back to ask for more help. Israel keeps asking for more help to the United States because other countries do not have it. They just don't have that. So Israel, Ukraine, and others continue to buy military products from these countries. And that's what keeps a lot of the machine going. Now, you'll probably sit here and go, but let's get rid of the military. Let's just get rid of this military machine. We don't need it. Get out from under your rock. You need this because, unfortunately, the enemies out there are hoping that you shut down your military machine, that you put down your defenses so that they can come in and create anarchy in your country. This isn't the time to back down anymore. And Trump is being blamed for world chaos, when the reality is the chaos has been there. He's just brought it to the forefront. He's creating a different way of trying to approach it. And he's demanding from other countries to help out and not expect the United States to do it all on her own. Isn't that what alliances do? What do you think? Thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to see you guys on Friday. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. Check us out on all the socials. Please like and share. And we hope to see you again on Friday.